Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ben Arnott and I'd like to welcome you to this very special bonus episode of the Smoking Hot Confessions podcast, Australia's first barbecue podcast. If you're into competition barbecue, you might be interested in my free ebook, 27 Lessons Learned from Competition Barbecue. I've drawn on my experience as both competitor and judge to offer you exclusive inside knowledge to help you make the most of your competition experience. Head to smokinghotconfessions.com/comp-ready to get your copy now. There's also a link in the description. Well, folks, this is exciting. Just before episode 10 launched, where I interviewed Brett Connell from the Flaming Mongrels about sponsorship, I went up to the Sunshine Coast to judge at the Mooloolah Barbecue Festival. While I was there, I met a great guy named Julian De Souza who told me about a festival he was putting together called the Barbecue and Beer Roadshow. We chatted back and forth, and 2 days later I got an email asking if I'd like to host the live Q&A session that he had on the schedule. I just couldn't let that opportunity slip by, and so of course, I signed up straight away. The theme I came up with was From Backyard to Pit Yard, What Inspires Competitive BBQ'ers. I then enlisted the always helpful Ralph and Kris from the Shank Brothers, who you remember from episode 9, Boyd from Sandgroper BBQ, currently the number 2 ranked team in Australia, and had travelled 56 hours across the country from Western Australia, as well as George and Shaun from Serial Grillers, a brand new team who were making their debut at the Roadshow. It was simply an incredible day. The venue was perfect on about 5 acres of land at the Doomben Racecourse in Brisbane, Queensland. The weather was just incredible. Couldn't have been better. There was barely a cloud in the sky and beautiful, warm Queensland summer sun. There were craft beer companies selling some of the best ice-cold beers I've ever had, as well as 30 barbecue teams and all sorts of barbecue vendors ranging from food vans to suppliers. Major congrats need to go to the Meat Sweats for picking up Grand Champion, Barbecue Mafia for Reserve Grand Champion, and the Smoking Hot Bros for third. There was only 25 points between first and third, so it was a really tight competition. Before we head into the Q&A, I just need to point out that there is a bit of wind noise in the recording. Not on the guest mics, of course, just mine. There was also a question that got asked before the mic could get run out to the person in the crowd. Fortunately, it was a question clarifying the previous question, so the recording still flows together well. Without further ado, let's head into the Smoking Hot Confessions live Q&A session at the Barbecue and Beer Roadshow 2017. Check it out.
This is the Smoking Hot Confessions podcast with barbecue pitmaster Ben Arnott. How long's it been since your last confession?
This chat is going to be hosted by Ben Arnott, who has Australia's first beef podcast, barbecue podcast, and it's Smoking Hot Confessions. Big round of applause for Ben Arnott from smokinghotconfessions.com.
Thank you very much.
Ben, you have Australia's first barbecue podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Talking about beef on radio. Do you have a big audience, or do you have a very enthusiastic audience of people who want to learn more?
Small audience, but growing incredibly rapidly. As, of course, the low and slow barbecue scene is picking up, as you can see here today. Just 2 short years ago, we were in very small venues, and now we're on, 5 acres? So it's incredible how rapidly the whole scene is growing.
And we've got teams as far away as WA competing this weekend.
We do. He has driven for days across the Nullarbor, and we are going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. He's risked death to be here.
And how did you get into barbecue yourself, and how did you come to start a podcast?
It's actually quite an interesting story. I found myself a stay-at-home dad for a period of time, and just decided, right, I'm going to spend as much time outside as I can. And I just had my, everyone's got one, the 4-burner gas barbecue from Bunnings, and I started getting into that. And my mother-in-law's from Arkansas. And when she came out to visit us, my wife said, Ben's right into barbecue. You got to go and have a look at his barbecue. And we walked out the back and I showed her the gas barbecue from Bunnings. And she
wasn't disappointed, was she?
Oh, she said, honey, that's not barbecue. And I said, whatever do you mean? And that was the end of that. So, and then 5 years later, here I am now. So
Well, Smoking Hot Confessions of the podcast. Tell us about the teams that you've going to be having a chat with now in the barbecue and
I've gone out of my way to pick some of the widest range of teams that we have here today to get a whole different range of perspective. So to kick it off, we've got the Shank Brothers. The Shank Brothers have been competing virtually since day one of the competition scene in Australia. They're one of the most experienced teams. You've seen them on Channel 7 on the barbecue competition show that was on there. And after that, we've got Sandgroper BBQ, who's the guy that's come all the way across the Nullarbor to join us. And then to get a new perspective, we've got a team who have debuted at this competition this weekend. So we're going to get the full range of opinions on topics today.
Awesome. Without any further ado, Ben, let's take it. Call up the teams.
Thank you very much. All right, we have Ralph and Kris from the Shank Brothers. G'day, mate. Good to see you. G'day, mate. And Boyd from Sandgroper BBQ. Travelled from WA, people. Driven across the Nullarbor. And we've got George and Shaun, our debut competition barbecuers from Serial Grillers. Quite possibly the coolest name I've heard in a long time. G'day. All right, so I'll just start off by giving you a little bit of background information about each of these three teams that we've got up here joining us today. So first of all, we've got Ralph and Kris from the Shank Brothers. And if you haven't heard of the Shank Brothers, you may have been living under an actual rock. The Shank Brothers are without a doubt Australia's highest profile team. This is not only... Yeah. You like that?
I like that.
All right. This is not only because they consistently turn out top 10 quality barbecue, but because they're also experts in branding and using social media to build a public profile. You've seen them on TV's Aussie Barbecue Heroes, and now they're here to share their secrets with us. So please give them a warm welcome. Moving on down, sitting in the middle, we have Boyd Colgan from Sandgroper BBQ. Boyd grew up on a small farm in southwest Western Australia, where he raised and butchered his own animals. But it wasn't until he got his first catering gig that he really got bitten by the low and slow bug. 80 people at a cricket club with a box of Wagyu brisket. Not a bad way to start. This led to a 6-week journey, hitting all the best barbecue joints in the US, followed by another 6 weeks when he got home, locked himself in his shed. He first competed at Meatstock Sydney 2016 and hasn't stopped since, having travelled across the Nullarbor again for a comp in Melbourne and now driven all the way up the east coast to join us here today. If you're wondering what he did in that 6 weeks in the shed, he built that monster trailer that's over there behind his tent. Check it out when we're done here. It is incredible. And obviously very well built. It's been back and forth across the Nullarbor 3 times, 4 times? 5. 5 times backwards and forwards across the Nullarbor. There you go. And leading up the rear down the end there, we've got George Alderson and Shaun Martin from Serial Grillers. I got a bit more for them than that. Serial Grillers is made up of 4 mates from Brisbane and the sunny coast, cooking on nothing but salvaged and homemade barbecues. With their newfound love of low and slow barbecue, the boys decided to take the big step from the backyard to the pit yard, with today's competition being their debut event. Armed with second-hand Webbers and a homemade trailer smoker, I had a look at that before, they've actually managed to build beer kegs onto the front of the trailer. That's another one to check out. The van over there behind us. Check that out when we're done here as well. The future is looking very bright for these young lads. Can we give them a warm welcome too, please? So with such a wide range of backgrounds here and experience in competition barbecue, the topic we're going to be talking about today is from the backyard to the pit yard, what drives barbecue competitors? So without further ado, I've got some questions that we're going to get the opinions from each of these, and then I've got some individual questions for them, and then we're going to run a mic down so you can ask some questions of them yourselves. So, starting off with our Shank Brothers. Casting your minds back to when you first got into competition barbecue, could you describe the moment when you realised you had to make the move from the backyard to the pit yard?
Okay, well, yeah, I guess you sort of you come to events like these. I guess you get a little taste of barbecue and the lifestyle and the smell of the smoke. And, it's pretty addictive, Like, what do you reckon?
Yeah, we were obviously hooked early on. And like any red-blooded Australian male, I think we said, we could do better than that, mate. And
let's give it a crack.
The next kind of thought is I need a team, and all your mates spring to mind, and then it's about giving it a go. And that was our first, I guess, the first big step was forming that team, coming up with a name and saying we're going to hit that next big comp.
Awesome. Alrighty, Boyd. So, mate, what was it for you, mate? When did you realise that you had to step out of the backyard and into the pit yard?
When I was over in the US, I managed to do a visitors judging course for Hoggen on Lanier, and just basically in Western Australia we don't have a lot of low and slow, so you don't really get to understand what the flavour profiles are and what you should be aiming for. And after tasting it at that event, I rated myself pretty highly, and I thought I could probably do this.
There you go. So, back to my earlier point.
And the lads, George and Shaun, our most recent competitors. So think way back to last week when you decided to make the jump.
Yeah, so obviously, we enjoy cooking ourselves in our backyard, and we just thought it'd be really cool to have the opportunity to come here and do it on a larger scale, spend the night with our mates and the other competitors here, have a chat to everyone, learn some new stuff, and just have a good time, basically.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. While you're still on the mic, what's been the highlight of your barbecue career so far, and what do you attribute to this?
Well, I guess this weekend's obviously the highlight of our very short career so far. We just, it was a really good night. We got to have like I said before, we had a lot of chats with a few guys around, learned some tips, had a few beers.
I reckon just being able to get all 5 of those categories done, getting them handed in. We almost didn't get the last one in because we had a little bit of an issue. But yeah, just being able to get it all done, being able to spend the weekend here. I got to take 3 weeks off work so that I could spend a bit of time practicing and running on the trailer and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's just good to be able to do this instead of going to work every day.
I got 2 questions in response to that. Did you actually say 3 weeks, and are you hiring?
Yeah, it was 3 weeks, but yeah, had to do a bit of a visit up north for a little while first, see some family and stuff, and I'm an apprentice butcher, so we don't get a lot of time off, so I took the opportunity. Christmas is over, so we got, bit of free time, which is handy.
Awesome. All right, Boyd, what has been the highlight for you so far, and to what do you attribute that?
I was lucky enough last year to have a couple of good events towards the end of the year, and unfortunately, but I was pretty stoked with it. Finished second overall in the ABA last year. So
in Australia, what?
Yeah. What attributed? I don't know. Addiction, I suppose, and just a lack of morals.
There you have it, from the number 2 team in Australia. Addiction and a lack of morals. That's what you need to work on. Okay. Shank Brothers, what has been the highlight of your career so far, and how did you get there?
Well, I think if I'm going to speak on behalf of Kris and the team, our highlight would have to be Bangalow. Getting grand champion at Bangalow is a big moment for us. We've been trying for a few years, and as I said, we were always the bridesmaids. And it's so difficult. It's very, very hard to get a placement and to get a call-up, let alone a grand championship. So to get that was incredible for us, and it was just a great way to see out the year for us.
I was actually there, and I saw when you won that, and it was like a 1980s Toyota Land Cruiser commercial. The entire team launched into the air with the arms up and the ankles up behind the butt and leaping and screaming, and it was impressive.
We cried like babies. We hugged like little girlies. I mean, it was incredible. That's what we live for. So fingers crossed today, eh? I don't know.
Watch out for the Toyota jump. It's coming. It's coming. All right, so what's been one of the biggest challenges that you've faced then, and how did you overcome it?
I think from my point of view, it's very difficult to align 4 or 5 guys in a team, to get, you got life, you're balancing all these things, and you got to try and get them all in the one place at the one time. And like the boys at the end said, it's a great feat to hand in each category and just tick it off and go, we did that. It really isn't about winning all the time. If you can just get that box up there and feel within yourself that you've had a good time and a good event, and it's not elitist. Anybody can do it. Anybody is welcome. There's no, every single team will welcome you and give you advice. There's a couple that won't, but we won't talk about them. But yeah, I mean, it's a great thing to be able to just put 5 boxes up and get that done. So
it's a real sense of achievement to set those goals.
Absolutely.
And then tick those goals off.
Absolutely, yeah.
Boyd, how about you, mate? What's been the biggest challenge you've faced, and how did you conquer it?
Trying to keep my job at work and not.
Well, just on that topic, when did you actually cross to the East Coast on this trip?
2.5 weeks ago.
2.5 weeks ago. And what have you been doing for the last 2.5 weeks?
Having a holiday.
Having a holiday. Not quite the answer I was going for. He actually competed in Melbourne. What was that, 10 days ago? 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago. And has been making his way up the coast to come and compete here with us today. So that's incredible. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, I know. It's just obviously travelling from the West Coast over here. Everything takes a lot of time and a lot of diesel. So I'm lucky enough to we've worked for a company for 12 years, so plenty of annual leave. Well, used to have plenty of annual leave. So
fantastic, lads. What's one of the biggest challenges you faced?
I guess for us it was just making sure we had everything prepared. It's our first competition. We didn't really know what to expect, what we needed to do, what we needed to have ready. We had to finish the trailer. We literally painted that yesterday morning, so that was a bit of a challenge. But yeah, it's just the first competition, just not really knowing what to expect, and that's probably the biggest challenge.
That leads very nicely into the next question. So now that you've experienced a competition, what is something that you were stressing about before as a backyard barbecuer that you now realise you really shouldn't have been stressing about?
We had plenty of stress. There was plenty of stress in the camp, pretty much this morning. But yeah, I think it all, like George said, we got 5 things turned in, so we probably had a bit of stress we didn't really need. We couldn't get our ribs to fit in the turn-in box in the end, but we got there.
Cigarette-powered hacksaw blade. That's a good tip right there. Yeah. Boyd, how about you, mate? What was something that you used to really stress about in the backyard that now you realise is not something to stress about?
It's more, I suppose, the whole about cooking barbecue. Like in terms of temperatures, it doesn't matter what temperature you cook at. It's what the meat's doing. It doesn't matter you cook at 220 or 275, 300. It doesn't matter as long as you pay attention to what the meat's doing. Now it's just put it in and when it's ready, it's ready. There's not a great deal you can do about it. So luckily enough, I do a fair bit of catering, so I get to practice a hell of a lot. So you get used to your pit and what the meat does and how long it takes. But yeah, for one tip would be just don't stress about it. Just allow yourself enough time and buy a good quality esky or a Cambro and at least you can hold it. It's hard to hurry it up.
For those who may not be familiar with that tip that you're talking about, can you explain a little bit more about that?
So, say if you've got a brisket or a pork shoulder or something and it hits your temperature you want, if you've wrapped it, pull it out, air it, so it, give it a 10-minute spell just so it stops the cooking process, and that way it won't overshoot. Wrap it back up in your alfoil, wrap it in a towel, drop it in an esky or a Cambro or Shambro, I think is the other term. It's just a flash esky that's got a really big price tag.
So that will actually hold the temperature until you're ready to serve it?
Yeah, so it'll hold the meat at food safe temperatures. So you can hold it for, in terms of catering stuff in a good quality Cambro, you can hold them for 6 to 8 hours. But for competition, you don't want them ready that early. But it's just a high quality esky that looks after your meat for you, and you can worry about looking after your chicken rather than opening and closing your lid and losing your pit temperature. So
That's great. Thank you for sharing. Lads.
Yeah, so I think I used to stress about pretty much everything from pits to wood to how long, you name it. Yeah, and I do. I'm probably the most anxious of all the team members, but I think the breakthrough was just saying, you know what, back to Boyd's point, the meat will be ready when it's ready, and especially when you're cooking for friends and family, not competition stuff, not freaking out about it's got to be on the table at 6 p.m. So just resetting your mind and saying, you know what, let's all just have a few drinks, and when this thing comes out, it's going to be ready and it's going to be right, but not to have to freak out and think, I've got to feed these people or they're going to die before 7 o'clock. So, yeah, it's just relaxing around the barbecue, and that only comes with experience and time with your barbecue and getting to know it, getting to understand it so it doesn't feel like it's an unknown entity.
Love it. Love it. All right, now, Shank Brothers Barbecue have a very strong social media game. For potential new teams who might be looking to join us in the next competition, what would be your advice for building a following?
So, yeah, well, for a start, I think the biggest thing is have fun. And it's all about content. Social media is about content. So content generation, you've got to make it interesting or usable or useful information. I think that video is obviously a massive trend moving forward. People just want to see what you're up to. They want to live through the brand and the experience that offers. So definitely making content that is viewable and watchable. Production level always helps, where you can just add a little bit of sound production or visual production, understanding how to use a camera, all those kind of basic things is a great way to help that new team get up on board. And just be unique, be yourself, because I think people follow you because you are different or you're unique to the next team next to you. So try and find a unique gap and carve it out for yourselves.
Very nice. Facebook Live, Instagram Live, that sort of thing. Boyd, my question for you, mate, is just how? How do you manage to how do you manage to drive 56 hours across the Nullarbor and then spend an entire weekend competing in a barbecue comp as a one-man team? And the second part of my question is, what do you do for a quid that gives you so much time off to be able to do all these competitions on the other side of the country?
all right. How? I don't know. No. But yeah, look, I've always loved driving. Every holiday I go on, I drive. It's bad habit. Just not the biggest. Look, not worried about a plane, but not the biggest fan of them. I'd rather have my own car and own freedom and get to see outback Australia and just have a look around. Yeah, and to me, like, so 12 years working for the same company, it allows you, long service leave and lots of annual leave. So, I've taken nearly 6 months off now, or a couple of months into it now, but it's great. And, like, I've always wanted to drive around Australia, and this is, given me the opportunity to burn extra fuel by towing something that's really heavy around with me. And spend extra money on meat. So, but look, I don't know. I absolutely love cooking in the barbecue comps. The friends you make and the community that is the ABA and the barbecue community is like, when I rocked up to Sydney for my first comp, it was like I'd bumped into long lost friends. It was just amazing that the people. They were like your brother, they just looked after you, and if you needed anything, it was like, oh, yep, no worries, come grab it. And, in a lot of sporting communities, opposition teams aren't like that. And to me, it was just an eye-opener of just how fun and how much support you get from fellow teammates and also the ABA and stuff like that. So it's, if you ever want to get involved, it's a great sport, but be warned, you'll end up with a dirty, great big trailer and a big meat bill.
And before you know it, you'll be driving across the Nullarbor back to Perth to go and compete in Boyd's hometown competitions. Alrighty, George and Shaun, as one of the newest kids on the block, what attracted you to competition barbecue, and what is the most important lesson you've learned from this competition here this weekend?
I reckon, every day that I had off, I'd buy something from work on my way home, and I just couldn't help myself, and the missus would just get sick of me cooking smoked meat all of the time. And I just thought, well, if I'm doing it on every day off, I might as well do it in a big venue, sort of meet a few people, get some tips, instead of cooking for mates that, you know, are going to be nice to me anyway. I might as well cook for people and sort of find out sort of how, you know, if we are sort of as good as we thought we were, which, but yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much. Is Matt there? He's going to be running the microphone out to the crowd for us. Alrighty, if you have any questions for any of the gentlemen on the stage up here, we have a mic coming out.
Check. Hey, 2.
Who wants that one? Hardest thing you've ever smoked, the most difficult.
I know this sounds cliche, but every team here, I think, finds brisket a challenge or has at some point. I mean, that, except Smoking Hot Bros, yeah. It's a difficult cut of meat, and you think you've conquered it one day, and it will come back and bite you. So it's just such a... it's terrible. So I think as a whole, brisket, and that's why you have competitions like this, because that is the pinnacle in mastering. And I think once you sort the brisket, then you I think you got a lot of proteins covered.
I wasn't sure where you're going with that at the start there. I thought you were going to say smoking the other teams was the hardest part.
Where are all the ladies at in the competition? But I mean, you've got a panel of all men. Where are all the ladies at?
Yeah, I'll answer this one as well. Look, great question, and we're super excited to be associated with the first Australian all-female barbecue team called the Shank Sisters, sitting right next to you actually. And just on a side note too, which is even more exciting, the first competition in Queensland for the year, the ladies won first place in lamb, beating all the male teams. So there you go.
My lamb recipe.
Just ruined the moment.
Hi guys, I've been to a few of these and I feel like the competition is completely separated from the public. Like it's not, we kind of can walk around and we can see what's happening, but we don't find out what happens until right at the end. Like would you welcome more of a public view, like say the first, you know, like when you have chicken wings, like you all get up there and we find out like who won and all that kind of thing, or do you kind of prefer not to have the public eye in your face for the day?
I guess it can at times be a little bit distracting because you're concentrating so much on what you're doing, and I think sometimes when the public come up, you want to see what's going on, and a lot of people want to eat what you're doing, and it's like, well, we've got to just get 6 portions for the box ready, and it can be a bit distracting. But to be honest, afterwards. Yeah, I think we definitely love it, talking to the punters and asking questions and all that sort of stuff. So I think there's a certain time frame where each team will have their head down and sort of business, and then afterwards it's really great to talk to, to answer your questions and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
There's actually another 2 components to answer that as well. There's a very tight hand-in window. So typically the public comes once the hand-in starts. And so once the hand-in start, the teams actually have only 10 minutes, 5 minutes either side of the hand-in time to hand in their boxes. And if they're literally more than 1 second late, even 1 second late, they're actually disqualified from that round. So they've got to be laser focused at that time to get that box in, which is why when the public's coming around, you may not necessarily be getting the interaction and the responses that you're looking for until after the end, as you were saying. And the second part, in terms of the public being able to try the food and sample the food, that all comes down to different local councils having different regulations.
Yeah, so more of a sense of the occasion and the spectre and the competition. Like that's a really interesting question, and I think the format could be really interesting to develop and look into further. Certainly from a spectator perspective, seeing the ebbs and flow of the results coming in, and one team might be ahead and then 2 rounds later they're behind. I think that could actually add a whole new dynamic that's really actually quite exciting. So I'm kind of liking where you're going with this.
Changing the face of Australian barbecue.
Do you guys have a favourite meat producer, or what does the impact? What's the impact of the meat producer have on the ultimate quality of the chances of success?
Yeah, obviously, you do have favourites in terms of. For me, I do catering as well, so I just look for consistency of product and ease of pick up and purchase. Price is an issue, but once you pick up a rapport with a meat supplier, the consistency of the product is the key, because you can go and source products from somewhere else and you'll end up with shiner ribs which are absolutely useless for anything, and then you're still paying basically not top dollar because you got it cheaper than where you normally get them from, but product. But in terms of a lot of us are sponsored or aided by meat companies in terms of that, because we obviously make their meat look good. So, but it's obviously you want the best product you can buy, and some of those products are extremely expensive, so they do aid your judgments as well. So,
you mentioned shiner ribs there before, Boyd. Could you just explain to the crowd what that is and why they're not the most desirable for competitions?
Okay, so a shiner rib is basically a lot of the supermarket food chains have them. They're basically a pork or even a beef rib, and it's just trimmed back to bone. So when you look at it from the external side of the rib bone, you'll see basically the bones all very close to, and basically there's just no meat on them. So if you were to carve off one rib like we do for competition, you wouldn't actually get a bite out of it. It'd just be wafer thin, it'd dry out, hold no moisture and stuff like that. So the ribs we buy for competition are a complete, a rack of shiners probably weighs 750 grams, and a decent rack of pork ribs, you're looking, 1.2 to 1.5 kilos. So it's twice the amount of meat on the same bone. So that's the difference between quality and shiners.
When you were first starting out, how did you go about grabbing your first lot of sponsorship?
I don't have a sponsor.
So I think it's all about a value exchange, right? So you've got to work out what you are probably best at spruiking, so to speak, or at least being a champion for. So it could be anything from bearded products to, modelling contracts. There's a lot of stuff out there, right? So, you got to think about what value you would give to that sponsor. And there are so many people out there that want to partner with this community and this sector that if it's a mutual success for each people as far as what they bring to the table, then the world's your oyster. We certainly focused around meat first because that at the end of the day is the showcase of a lot of these events and competitions, and then just move through the food groups and alcohol aisles.
Hey guys, this is a question for the organisers. Have you ever considered a People's Choice Award for the tasting of the meat?
I've organised this Q&A. I have not actually organised this event. I'm external to the event. So to answer your question, I would love to do that. I think that would be an awesome idea. And I think I actually did see something, they are doing something like that here later today.
Yeah, it harks back to that different councils have different rules. I know at Bangalore they certainly do a sort of a People's Choice type token system type thing, but yeah, good idea. Two questions.
Yeah. I like to cook.
It's extra.
Hey, do you guys use different woods for different smoking techniques?
Yeah, definitely. We used about 4 or 5 different types of wood on different cuts today. All the way through from we used some pimento for some chicken, and we used apple and cherry, oak. Yeah, a few different types.
do you like to match those particular woods with those particular types of meat? So pimento you matched with...
Yeah, so we did like a jerk chicken as the chicken entry, and they normally use the pimento tree. But yeah, so we had to get allspice berries because we couldn't sort of get the wood, so had to do it that way just to give it a bit of a go and sort of, apple with pork and that sort of thing. Just, trying to match it as much as we can, and then just trying to get those flavours to all work together. So as much as we can mix your rubs, your injections, your woods all together, I find if you can make them all marry together, then yeah, it's not going to hurt.
Yeah, just on that one. I solely use a West Australian hardwood, which is very similar to your ironbark over here, Jarrah, for absolutely everything except seafood. It just seems to overpower the seafood, but on every other cook, it seems to work all right. It also comes down to the fact that I cook on the one pit, so it's only one fire source. So
yeah, Brenda, would you like to come up on stage and join us up on stage and answer a couple of those questions?
So there's a lot of ladies in the crowd today, so I think there was definitely a few interesting questions popping up. So now's your chance to ask from female to female a few questions of what it's like to be on the competition circuit as a female competitor.
How do you feel being in what is a male-dominated panel? Like, not like a panel, but in like a sport,
Well, I have to say one of the first reasons I got into this is we did Port Mac probably 2 years ago now, and I went as a spectator because Ralph and his team were competing, and it is the reason I got into it because I walked around the pits and I said, oh, what are you cooking here? What are you cooking there? And everybody was so giving, and they're like that now. At Malula Bar, we forgot a few things, as you always do. You walk next door, what have you got that I need? And they're really happy just to share it with you. So it's a really nice community to be involved in, and the boys look after us as we look after them, I think.
Hi, Brenda. What advice would you give to any females out there wanting to start their own team?
Get in there and have a go. It's awesome. It's scary to start with, but it's actually not, well, it's not that hard, but if you don't get in there and have a go, you just won't ever know.
Hi. Do you stay relatively local or do you travel more nationally as well?
Our team at the moment, we have children, so if your husband competes as well, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So this year we are doing fairly local. We'll go as far as Port Mac this year, and we'll probably do Bundaberg, but rest of that we will stay fairly local.
Samantha, what are the main metrics that you get rated against? So when you meet, this is probably a more general question, but happy for you to answer it. But what are so what's on the award criteria?
From a judging point of view?
Yeah. Is it dryness? Is it, what are the main criteria?
We haven't competed today as a female team. All of the girls in our team have done the judging course this morning. They've just updated a few of the rules. So as some of the punters asked earlier about having a people's choice, you can get in there, you can become one of the judges. It's relatively easy. Find out where the next comp is, put your name down, become a judge. The criteria is appearance, taste and texture. We score out of 10, but the appearance is out of 10, your taste is out of 30 and your texture is out of 20. So it's a total score of 60 from each judge.
Hi. I have a friend in Atlanta who he is grand champion. And I've always wanted to ask him, but it's only on Facebook, so I can't, do those kind of questions on Facebook. So there's got to be more than 3 categories. You said taste, texture, and appearance. There's got to be more than that, isn't there? I mean, wouldn't there be a whole checklist of things that they're looking at? Yeah, sorry, I just think there's only 3.
I think you use those those categories to really just break down the key main aspects of taste and texture and appearance on it. But it's really to give people flexibility and freedom and creativity to still try new things and to ensure that they have got their own creative control over the meats. So if we had a huge checklist of things that it had to tick off, then everyone would ultimately end up doing exactly the same thing. So as long as you hand in meat knowing that those three criteria are judged against, then that will obviously give you a lot more freedom. So the other backdrop to this is that it is about low and slow. So most teams won't jump on a grill and just flip something, and it's all about letting that fat render out, using your smoke as seasoning to really flavour the meat. So this is a low and slow kind of competition, and that's the focus. But that's a given, I think, maybe.
Hi there. So obviously, like you say, Ralphie, today is about low and slow, but what do you guys like to make during the week on the barbecue or on the grill?
Cereal. Salad. No. Well, yeah. We sort of stick pretty. I mean, barbecue you can't eat every day. It's disgustingly rich. It's lovely, and you get a craving for it every now and again. But if you ate it every day, it's not good for you. So we do a salad and grilled meats and things that are fairly simple. A bit of seafood chucked in there, and just normal stuff.
Smoked salmon's a great one. Smoked salmon, it doesn't take that long. It can go into anything, salads. You can cryovac that up, have it for lunch the next day. I mean, smoked salmon is so versatile, and it's absolutely phenomenal with that smoke. So it's good. What about you, Boyd?
I like it. As I said before, I do a fair bit of catering. So during the week, quite sick of barbecue. So and shy away from the odd salad too. So, but so like a steak, and like my favourite on the barbecue is just the smoked chicken wings. So you can't, simple, quick, nice and easy, heaps of flavour, and you can't beat them. So.
For me, anyway, pretty simple. I got a pretty busy work schedule, so steak, grilled chicken, salads, pretty basic stuff during the week. Fish.
Pretty much the same. Just sort of before I got into this, I used to cook most of the meals at home anyway, so it was just sort of still the same kind of stuff. Try not to have, don't let my wife hear me say that. But just try to sort of shy away from some of the richer sort of stuff during the week, because when you're eating it every weekend, you don't get this figure eating salads every day, that's for sure.
On that note, I think that pretty much wraps it up here for the Q&A today. So I'd like to get you all to give a big round of applause and say thank you to the Shank Brothers, Sandgroper BBQ and Cereal Gorillas. Make sure you stick around, have a chat afterwards, and do go and check out each of their tents, check out their pits, ask them anything you want. Thanks very much. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Big round of applause for Ben from Smoking Hot Confessions, Australia's first barbecue podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Smoking Hot Confessions podcast. Head on over to smokinghotconfessions.com for recipes, tips, and Ben's own confessions.